All right, so here are a couple things we're doing. We've got this little greenhouse. These are all seedlings. Right here, these are peaches, more peaches over here, apricots, more peaches, apples, plums, hazelnuts. This is a little greenhouse you can get online. Kingbird is the name. 200 bucks, 250 bucks. But don't be deceived because you do have to secure these. We've basically mounted them to these little 4x4s, and then you got to add shelves. At least that's what we did. So these went in here first week of April. At that point, you're contending with the frost, and so this actually does hold heat pretty well if you just add a couple space heaters. Actually even needed one. It got down to 20 degrees. So this really protects from that frost just really coming in. It might even be right at 32, 33 degrees, but these won't freeze. We've got grow lights under here just to give them a little bit extra light. These were all stratified in October, starting in October into December, and then once they sprouted, popped them in here in these little containers. These are great. I get these from Stewie & Sons, and they've got this little air pruning mechanism at the base. The one thing you got to watch out for is rotting. And so this, you'll notice, is actually fairly dry. There's still a decent bit of moisture in here, and the roots look good. You know, they aren't brown. You're starting to see a little bit of browning, but I would be just fine with a little bit of browning over, you know, the tree starting to rot. I really love these little containers. You can just pop the seeds right in. This is a 75% peat, 25% compost mixture. It's actually from the city of Superior, just outside of Missoula, and they don't use any yard waste, which you can really have a difficult time with getting some stuff to germinate, especially given that you don't know what people had sprayed on their lawn or maybe Tordon can end up in yard waste, which is definitely not good. That's basically like nuking everything. So yeah, they've been in here for a little over a month. Third, fourth week of March was when we put them in here. And then here in the next couple weeks, what we'll do is we'll go in and I'll show you outside what they'll go into, and that's these right here. These are just 5x12 pots. This is a mixture of mainly compost, some peat. Contrary to what a lot of people say, we actually go back in and add a little bit of some wood chips in the whole matrix of our potting soil. That's in large part because we myceliate everything, so we get a really good mix of powdered mycelium, mycorrhizal fungi that you just dip everything in prior to planting. It's got so much mycelium in it, which I love, and it helps mineralize those wood chips, really break them down. And you know, there's not much nitrogen lockup that we see. So we'll put these in here, and we'll expect to get, I'd say by the end of the growing season, probably anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. And that's even including going in say like mid-August and just really tapering the water off. What I'm doing there is just really monitoring the soil moisture in here and making sure that soil moisture is low enough to the point where you start to see leaf droopage, but not terminal bud droopage or shoot droopage. You don't want to see that. And actually, I've never even seen that. But I think that speaks for how this system I really like it, because you can get that kind of growth, and that's even including tapering that water off come, you know, August. So we're sacrificing a little bit of growth at the end of the year, but it really helps those trees harden off. So check out our other video where we go into basically hardening off the tree, allowing it to ramp down its metabolism and really prepare itself for winter. So, and then as for other stuff we've got going on, so these are actually different. These are just grafted. These are Russian pears right here. Bolshaya, Vekovaya, Larenskaya, Krazulia. My buddy Bernie out of Edmonton imported all of these. They're originally bred in the South Ural Research Breeding Institute over in Russia. They're crossing hundreds of years of, you know, basically brain energy that went into breeding gourmet dessert quality pears, but that are not really that hardy, sub -35. Crossing those with Manchurian pear or Harbin pear, also known as Usurian pear, Pyrus usuriensis. So that's what we're grafting these onto, and I'm really excited. This is our first year we've really grown out these Russian pears. So we actually grafted these third week of March. So we went in and we whip and tongued them. We actually use masking tape, which I really like. and a lot of people don't use this. The masking tape is nice, it eventually degrades, but it really, what it does is it secures for this wax that we've got on here. So if you look up close, you'll see this is all wax. It's a blend of Mexican rosin, a little bit of beeswax and some other components, and that's really nice. It helps really encapsulate that graft and that graft union and allows no air, moisture, etc. to get in and potentially ruin that graft. And so what these guys are doing over here is they're grabbing some of these. This is actually Native American plum that we've grafted. In this case, this is Toka onto, which is an Asian American hybrid plum that does well on Native American plum. I like native plum. I don't love the growth habit that it creates, but the graft compatibility is really nice with those Asian American hybrids. The Asian American hybrids and the Euros do really well when you graft those plums onto the Krimsk 86 as well. Yeah, we're getting the soil prepared, and they're going in and they're root pruning and making sure they're upright and everything's good to go in the pots. One thing that we're doing that is really important, and I actually don't have my pruners on me, but after they've been potted up, we're actually going in and we're getting rid of any other shoots. So we're selecting the strongest shoot that's emerged from the scion or the overstock and making sure that it's got no competition. So we're just wanting all the energy to be cranked into this one bud, and we're removing any buds from the rootstock as well. If you want to check this out too, this is a different system. So I'm kind of showing you 3 different systems. So right here, these we budded in August. This is Martha on Dolgo. Martha was one of my mentor Rod's favorite, all-time favorite. It's an apple crab, they're great. And I really like Dolgo. Basically, thanks to him, you get a really nice mixture of taprootedness with fine root kind of spreading growth that I think you don't really see in other of the like hardy rootstocks like Antonovka. Which is more taprooted, and we don't really grow Antonovka too much for that reason, because we do so much in pots. Even though we are a little bit more mild here, some of those other parts of the country I don't think have that same sort of like wind funnel convection of cold air that you get from the Arctic that the Rockies just drive down into western Montana and the other parts of the northern Rockies, especially in, say, October. So when we're field growing bud grafted stuff, that can just be absolutely brutal. Like there were years where we lost all of our bud grafts, and I'm not just talking about some of the less hardy stuff like the sweet cherries that will bud graft, but like, you know, apples even, that was too much for them. Even if you harden off the graft or start hardening off the rootstock by tapering off the water, that can even be super just too much for them, too cold, way too early. So that's why this is nice. We can bring them inside. We actually just potted these up. We had them in 5x12s that we put in our cold room for the whole winter. We'll expect to see 5, 6, maybe even 7 feet of growth on these little buds right here. And then one other thing that we do is we wait until the bud has broken, and we'll go in and prune all the rootstock back to the graft that's then gonna take precedence and rock and roll. All right, so that's what some of our programming looks like in terms of trees that we've seeded out in that greenhouse, as well as some of the whip and tongue grafts that we just did back in March and what it looks like after potting them up, as well as these chip buds that were done last August, brought in during the winter and then potted up and ready to rock and roll here for the growing season. So if you like this, check out some of our other videos. We've got a lot more coming, and look forward to sharing more content with you in the future. Thanks.